family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Friday Night Debate on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jah, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's debate, we're going to be debating trending national issues. And those issues are, number one, our president was in Washington, D.C. for the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit. He delivered a speech at the summit. Also, there was a rally, a town hall meeting held for President Weah by members of his party. We are hearing that LBDI, there are troubles at LBDI, financial troubles. This followed a few weeks after the bank president was involved in a scandal that caused him to lose his job. There is a borrower's list or a purported borrower's list. We're going to talk about that. And we are tired suffering rally. Today is the eve of the tired suffering rally, and $70,000 gone. Where is it? We're going to be debating all this issue with me. I have from the ANC and joining us from Sacramento, California, Mr. Jonathan Delake. Jonathan, welcome to Friday Night Debate.
Thank you so very kindly, Mr. Jah. It's an opportunity to share my thoughts with my colleagues on the platform. Thank you.
Thank you. From the JND tag team is Mr. Laraman Yonton, who is joining us from Philadelphia. Mr. Yonton, welcome to Friday Night Debate.
Thank you, Dennis. It's always a pleasure. Let me say thank you and hi to all of the panelists who have made it the time to be here tonight, and to all of our listeners, I want to say hi, sir.
I also want to welcome from Team Gonglo, he's proposed Councilor Tiawan Gonglo, Ambula Mame. Ambula, welcome to Friday Night Debate.
Thank you, Dennis. Good to be here again. Looking forward to the discussion.
I also want to welcome independent-minded P. Morris Krumah. He worked in the Ellen government, so they can easily tie him with the UP, but he doesn't like that. Morris, welcome to the show. You are muted, Morris.
Thank you, Dennis, for the opportunity. I'm happy to be here and to be a part of the conversation. Sorry about the mute.
Thank you. Again, Mr. Krumah is not aligned with any political party or support any presidential aspirant. Now, last and definitely not the least is another independent-minded, Weah A. Momba, who is joining us from Atlanta. Weah, welcome to Friday Night Debate.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure, as always, being on your show.
We want to welcome our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia. Friday Night Debate is where we debate the issues. So, and we are waiting for a representative or a member of the CDC, Mr. Choppy Charlie, aka Blue Jade Nation. Hopefully, is going to be joining us in a moment. Every Friday night, we try to discuss national issues, and we have representatives from each of the major political parties or presidential aspirants to come, and let's talk about the issue. Let's begin with the president's speech at the U.S.-Africa Summit. Well, we all know about the summit. The president has been away for over a month now, and climaxing his a month and a half long trip is the trip to the U.S. to attend the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit. We saw the president was there at the meeting, and that was followed by the town hall. But let's talk about the summit. And let me start with Mr. Morris Krumah. Morris, you are independent, so I want you to bring your fair, independent mindset to the discussion. What do you make of the president's trip at the summit, the speech, and everything else?
So, I mean, I listened to the president's speech live when he was delivering it, and I thought it was a good speech. Just the words that he said out of his mouth was actually an encouraging message. Unfortunately, the message that the president was delivering in DC was not correlating with what the government policies and priorities on the ground were. He bragged about, for example, he bragged about how under his leadership there is a new dual citizenship law that was passed in the country. But all of us know that the dual citizenship law that was passed in the country actually disenfranchised um, people that are in the diaspora, people that took up citizenship in another country, because you are basically not allowed to occupy certain positions when you have a dual citizenship. So those things were very fuzzy. We're not very clear about this whole idea that he's bragging about, passing a law because of the importance of the diaspora. But technically, the things that actually happen on the ground are different. The second part is that he spoke about how important a role the diaspora is for all of these African countries, which is true. So in essence, the message is clear, it's true. But on the ground in Liberia, President Weah has not done anything to attract the how you call it, the economic opportunities that are within the Liberian community that is in the diaspora. So he's saying one thing out of his mouth, but in reality, it's a whole different ballgame. There is so much resources, whether it's in healthcare, it's in education, it's actually in economics, investment. I mean, I'll give you an example. The US government invested $7 billion in foreign aid in the entire Africa, right? But if you look at just Nigeria and Ghana alone, the remittances that went to those countries in 2021 is $9 billion and $4 billion respectively. So just Nigeria and Ghana alone in remittances can almost cover for the amount of money that the US government has contributed to Africa as a continent. So it leads you to think about how important it is for the diaspora folks to start to think about economic opportunities back home. But the government has to be able to leverage that opportunity. I don't think we has understood that.
Mr. Yonton, we heard a lot, especially from the opposition bloc, that the president was not visiting America. President Biden was giving him a cold shoulder. Now you see the president taking selfie with the president of the United States. They are watching the World Cup together. Now, who gets the last laugh?
Selfie doesn't drive public policy, doesn't drive bilateral relations. It's just a photo app. I think bulk of what happened at the U.S. Africa summit took place at the level of sideline meetings, where different compacts and different agreements were signed. We learned about the historic inauguration of countries like Gabon and Niger and other countries into the MCC. We saw how the U.S. was very involved and engaged with the DRC, not just over the coming election, but to ensure that they are the leader in that region as far as climate clean energy is concerned. So what did Liberia profit in terms of their own geopolitical strategic role, not just in the region, but as a historic partner to the U.S.? We saw nothing. So SEFI doesn't drive any of those active policies, especially at this point where the world is now looking at Africa as a leading force, as a geopolitical rising star within the context of geopolitics.
But Mr. Yonton, you are moving the goalpost. Before, what we heard was the president was never going to visit the White House. He was never going to sit with Biden. And you, the members of Unity Party, ANC, were saying these things. Now the president is sitting next to President Biden on the right-hand side of President Biden, watching the World Cup. So now you are moving the goalpost and say, well, it doesn't drive it. Well, you asked for it, and now you got it.
No. I was, first of all, I was not one of those who fought for that argument that the president is not going. The fact that the president was invited to the U.S. the U.S. Africa summit means that there was possibility for him to have met the U.S. president. That's one. Two, you have 49 other presidents attending and this summit. You realize that Gabon, Liberia, Madagascar, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone were singled out as nations that had a closed-door meeting with the U.S. president, specifically on the possibility of the election being free, fair, and transparent. These countries go to election next year. So I have never argued that there's not a possibility of this president meeting, but the substantive nature of this meeting is what I'm personally concerned of, and as many Liberians are concerned about what comes out of this kind of meeting, other than the selfie and in the photo app. And we've seen that times in number when President Weah travels around on serious business. He's all about picture taking. If you watch the introductory remarks by the Secretary of State, right, when he was introducing and welcoming Weah on the stage for his address, he tried to connect to Weah to that of this whole historic, iconic football image, right? Oh, I was in Qatar and I watched and celebrated your son's score the first goal. That's the only connection people have with Weah, even many years after he's resigned from football. He's now president of a whole country, leading different issues, policy issues, but people cannot still connect Weah with the substantive nature of his government policy, and that's a shame.
Mrs. Momba, what's your major takeaway from the president's speech?
Well, the president's he said a lot of things, that touched down very well, but I try to connect some of them to reality. He talked about Liberia being a safe haven for democracy. And then I started thinking, if Liberia is a safe haven for democracy, then why did we have people being dragged to the ground on the 26th of July? And those that perpetrated those crimes were not even punished. So it is easy to say Liberia is a safe haven, but in practical, it is not really connecting. And he also talked about women, the harmful traditional practices against women and girls. But from time immemorial, even with the first female president of Liberia, taking a world stage as president of Liberia, those same practices have been going on, and they're still going on. The last time I saw a video where the traditional Azores, they challenged the authority, that told them not to carry on their societal practices against women and girls. And there was nothing, that anybody could do about it. So saying these things is like making pronouncement, but at the end of the day, we're not going to get results because those traditions are very much rooted in Liberia.
Thank you. Jonathan, what you got from the speech?
Thank you. I may have said our issues in our country have not been about the pleasantry of speeches being made. They have been matching what the speech that come out of voice versus the practicality as to how people can visibly see the action related to the speech. And so this president spoke about Africans being a continent dominated with young people, especially the diaspora community that can be exploited from the background innovation, investment, and knowledge transfer. The president spoke about the talent in Africans in the diaspora that serve as a reservoir, and all of the great attributes related to the capacity of the diaspora. And we all have said it continuously and consistently that if we can cultivate the diaspora, blend it with that of our local Liberians, and exercise democratic tendencies, indeed, we can be one of the successful countries in our country, in Africa. But again, what are the steps taken towards what we are saying? In recent time, the president, against all odds, recruited someone without taking into consideration due diligence to go at the airport. Again, we are seeing the issue of the LBDI situation that has direct, supervision with regard to the Ministry of Finance. And we continue to see these things happening. So there is a opposite link to the president's statement and the given reality on the ground. So how do we cultivate this innovation? If you have a town hall meeting for Seditians, not Liberians, knowing that it's difficult to always have this meeting and you not always have the opportunity to come to the US and you are on taxpayer money, but you go to a town hall meeting and nobody can ask you questions from whence you can tap upon the knowledge of people who are innovative. It demonstrates clearly that he's speaking from two sides of his mouth. Sorry for the expression, but at one end, he claimed that the diaspora innovation can be tapped on, and at another end, he resists the diaspora even participating in town halls where they can express themselves, be it from other political parties or even from your platform. Different Liberian platforms. So I have not gotten it. It didn't make a lot of practicality to me.
Thank you. Let me go to you, Mr. Mamia, and let me read this report. It says President Joe Biden will urge the leaders of 6 African nations facing elections in 2023 to ensure that balloting is free and fair. He will hold a private meeting at the White House on Wednesday with leaders from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Gabon, Liberia, Nigeria, Madagascar, and Sierra Leone to discuss elections and democracy in Africa, a National Security Council spokesman said. Again, same question. This was what people mainly criticized President Weah about. Now, this should be a big week for President Weah. He sat with President Biden. He's going to get a one-on-one meeting and probably coming back in March, as I was told. Big deal?
It depends who you're talking to. It depends who you're talking to rate the president's, seated in the meeting with Biden that is focused on reminding him to ensure free, fair, and transparent election. The meeting is focused on pushing him to ensure elections are conducted on time. The meeting is focused on reminding him of his constitutional responsibility to uphold the tenets of democracy. Biden saw no forum appropriate than that forum. The forum that they came to was the forum to prevent the backslide of democracy. 6 countries are going to election less than 12 months after this forum. Biden saw it as the best opportunity to remind them of their constitutional responsibility, but beyond that, to tell them that even the US is prepared to provide resources to ensure free, fair, and transparent election. The onus will be on you to ensure the process is free, fair, and transparent. So if you consider that as an achievement, it's up to you. But when we were talking about presidents, or when activists or political commentators or people interested in the progress of the country talking about the president meeting the US president, they are speaking about it in the context of the president meeting the US president to influence US foreign policy and US development agenda towards Liberia. Normally, when two country presidents meet, like we've seen in the past in other places, the president of this country will present his agenda to his colleague. And in the case of America, the president of Liberia will present his or her agenda, the constraints they face, and identify how U.S. both public and private donor sector can support those initiatives back home. And the U.S. president will make commitment based on those challenges and what the U.S. has to offer. If that is not happening, and you feel happy that the president took selfie and you feel achieved, that's up to you. But I know Liberians and many other Liberians are concerned more about how President Biden's decision to build roads, to support Liberia in building roads, how President Biden's decision as a result of the president's meeting will push private capital to Liberia rather than seeing the president and Biden taking picture in selfie. That's not what Liberians are interested in. But if seditians are interested in that, that's up to them.
Mr. Mama, it's too early to tell.
Why? What make it early is not early. The meeting ended. Nothing else happening. The meeting ended. And the purpose of the meeting was stated by the U.S. government. It ended. They signed off. They went. They watched their football game. But look at what happened. Other countries' president met Biden. They participated in the forum. You saw what happened? Check in Zambia. Over $500 million. Check to Rwanda. Check to other African countries. They signed compact. Check to Tanzania. They signed agreements for funding to those countries. We just took pictures and we're happy about it. That's mediocrity to the highest level. I don't celebrate that.
Mr. Krumah, you have the last word on this topic before we move on. We are going into elections. It's all about the optics, right? President Weah is sitting with President Biden, but see what's happening to aspiring Buakai is in this issue of flying private jet. If you go to Liberia with Mr. Cummings, it's about 70,000 getting missing, right? So if that's good thing happening to the president when you compare him with the other guys, the other candidates running for the same job, I think it's good news for him and not so good news for the other candidates. What do you think?
No, Dennis. So we have to put this thing into context so people can understand.
Okay.
When you are president of the country and you are aspiring for public office, those are two different categories. The office of the president is running a country. He's setting over the country's natural resources. He's making decisions about the wealth of the country. So when you live a lavish life in that presidency, it says something about your character and your leadership. Those that are aspiring to be president will cut them some slack because they're not using public resources to do the things that they're doing. So yeah, I mean that's true. We can hold them to some sort of account, but the way we hold the president is at a whole different level. On the whole idea of the president sitting with Biden and watching the soccer game, President Biden put out a statement after watching the game. And the statement he put out was that it was nice watching a soccer game with the Moroccan president. And that to me stood out because if Biden wanted, he could have said I sat with several African leaders, including A, B, C, D.
Morocco was playing, so it makes sense to mention Morocco.
So, but the idea is that he was specific in saying I sat with the president of Morocco, even though the president that was sitting next to him was not the Moroccan president. It was actually the Liberian president, but he said I sat with the Moroccan. Exactly. So the image don't lie. You see what I'm saying? So he's able to say I sat with the Moroccan president to watch a game, but he did not mention our president. So that's true. I mean, the president was in the meeting with them. That's who knows? Maybe we are, was very strategic in finding a seat. As not the U.S. president sat and said, that's the what I'm going to say, because any picture I'll be inside. The whole idea of photo app to me is what gets me frustrated because there are pressing issues in the country, Dennis. I mean, imagine, for heaven's sake, all these auditors that die, the administration have not said anything about those people dying. This mismanagement of the natural resources, the whole census deal. PP's now LSCC indicted public officials in your administration. He has not done anything about those things. We can't be worried about we are taking picture of President Biden. There are governance issues that the president must fix. And he has clearly demonstrated that he's the most incompetent president that Liberia has ever seen. Even a houseboy can do a better job with the presidency than President Weah. I'm deeply disappointed. But hey, I guess Seditians will say something else.
Mr. You want to talk about your candidate? So you want to say 30 seconds if you want to give a short rebuttal or response. You're muted, sir.
Dennis, sorry. What I wanted to say is that there are specific African countries walking out of the corridors of Washington at that historic U.S.-Africa summit, begging something that they can go back home and tell the people, right? Nigeria goes to election next year. The Export-Import Bank of the United States have made an appropriated $7.4 million to Nigeria, plus other compact that is signed, right? And that just going towards strategic energy installation in parts of Nigeria. What can we boast of other than a selfie and watching football game alongside the U.S. president that did not recognize him? So we want to talk about optics. That's what we call optics, right? The tangible that you get out of these bilateral meetings and different summits as far as your country can grab, because these things don't happen. The last time this happened was in 2014, just 8 years ago, almost a decade. So to have this kind of gathering is one in a lifetime moment for a nation with the right kind of leader that has all of the agenda, and readiness to move and make the case for the country. The last point is that when Weah goes back to Liberia, it's easy to say, oh, I took a picture of Biden. But the reality on the ground is different. On the ground, we have seen over the last 6 months to 12 months, a U.S. ambassador constantly reminding Liberians, constantly reminding this government of its responsibility, that the sanction still hangs over key officials of government that will be engaged in corruption and violation of the Magnitsky Act. So this is clear. That's optics. And we're moving to election year. The opposition is clear that we do not even have to campaign. When people like Miguel still going to be on the ballot after being sanctioned, when key members of the Weah government have been sanctioned by the Magnitsky Act, those are optics, right? Let's spare us this, Joseph Boaga Ryan, private jet. He's a private citizen. He's not in government. The mandate of the people was given to Weah, and Weah is abusing that mandate at this time, and that's the conversation we should be having.
Let's talk about the town hall in DC, right? And Jonathan, I saw one of your partisan reporter from DC said he was thrown out. What do you know about this town hall, and why was ANC not represented? This was a town hall to meet the president. What's the story? Mr. Dolake.
And so the town hall clearly demonstrated that it was meant for maybe a CDC diaspora convention other than Liberians gathering to have meeting with their leader who would not always have the opportunity to be in America, and exchange on some of the things that have been happening home and away, and how the leader and his entourage can tap on the reservoir of knowledge that President Weah spoke about that is within the diaspora community. Unfortunately, of course, Monique Kishen was thrown out. Not only was he thrown out because he had gone there to ask questions and ask those respectful questions, but to guarantee or to validate what happened about excluding others, which is a nexus to our current quagmire in the country. is the fact that the president chose not to have question and answer. And it can clearly be demonstrated that was why Monique Kishen was thrown out, because he would have obviously requested to ask questions about happiness home. What are the happiness home? 3 boys that got missing and they are believed to be dead involving the Simosis situation. They are Liberians. They deserve the right, and their family should know what exactly happened to them. The neck logistician in Grand Jida County who are gone missing, he's a Liberian. Liberians deserve to talk about him, and the president has all right to answer to the Liberian people on the lives of these individuals. So our situation, like per your question, is that President Weah have caught up speech with the rest of Liberians. He speaks to Liberians through music. He speaks to Liberians from his pulpit. He speaks to Liberians only through his partisan, and he never want to confront Liberian. And it is on the basis and many others for which the tomorrow rally have been called, because the president has resisted hearing from ordinary Liberians, people of different political persuasion, when things are happening home. We have never ever been against the president coming to tap upon the bilateral relationship we have with the U.S. government. As a matter of fact, someone who pushes better foreign relations like Madam Salif was able to tap on that reservoir in 2006, immediately when she took over. So we were not thinking about President Weah coming to a summit of 49 leaders, that everyone will be given similar invitation to meet President Biden. We have been thinking that President Weah will be pushing to his bilateral partners, especially our traditional partners, the U.S. government, that we are prepared for democracy. These are our hiccups. These are our burning constraints. This is the level of resources that we can generate to tackle these areas. This is the gap that we have. How can you help? And then these bilateral partners will advance suggestion, and Ambula Mohammed said, and then the conversation can start from there. But all that we saw over the weekend, it was quite unfortunate, and not just only unfortunate, but it happened immediately when Mr. Ellis Comey had an elaborate town hall meeting where questions beyond bound were asked, and the president came for people to ask questions.
Thank you.
Conversation for re-election. So we are demonstrating here, and Liberians should have no reason to come near his re-election.
Thank you. One person who was at the meeting, right? Focus on Liberia. I was there. That's Dr. Batum Kula. The entire town hall was stage managed by the CDC to avoid any perceived critics of Weah and CDC. It was a complete mess. Mrs. Morba, according to Choppy Charlie I spoke to after the meeting, said this was not a CDC event. It was organized by a group called something Forum for Democracy, and it was open to the public. What did you hear about this? And nobody was stopped besides Monica Shen, who reported that he was thrown out. I didn't hear anybody else being stopped from attending the town hall. What stopped people from going there, and now they are complaining?
Well, we did not also hear that people from other parties were there. So besides the one person that was thrown out, I haven't heard or seen anybody from other political parties that were present. But I watched the videos, and it was quite interesting that almost everybody in the hall were very, very friendly. Like they were all partisans, you know. They were cheering. They were very, very, I mean, it looked practically like a party convention where everybody know each other, everybody is just merrymaking. And so to even prove that, the president's discussion on the protest that is going on tomorrow, he criticized those that staged the protest that for 12 years, they didn't do what they were supposed to do. And now he's doing what he's doing. The work that they failed to do is what he's doing, and they want to protest. So with all the discussions that went on, you couldn't see anybody from another party giving an opposite view or asking question. Everything was just given and received by the audience. So in that discussion also you talk about people who protesting for rights. Well, if you want, he said, if you want to protest for rights, go home. If you're in the diaspora and want to protest for rights, go home and make farms. I thought it was quite interesting because Liberians back home, I haven't heard anything telling them, to go back to the soil to plant some food. It has always been people buying parboiled rice or protesting for it when it is not in town. So if those on the ground are not encouraged to go back to the soil, how can you extend invitation to people in the diaspora to go back and make farms? And even if they decide to go back and make farms, are conditions suitable for everybody to go home? You see that everybody or most people live from the diaspora. The first thing that local Liberians think about is, are you coming for their jobs? And so people in the diaspora, they look at, although they are supposed to be citizens of Liberia, according to the rights that President Weah, said he gave recently. But even at that, people still look at people from the diaspora not to, to be Liberians, or because they feel that you want to share the pile that everybody is enjoying. So because of that, people always have opposite view. So with all the discussions that went on, basically, I didn't really think that it was a town hall of Liberians based on the interaction that I saw, because it's not possible for everybody in the hall, to be of one view. It was basically stage managed by seditions.
Mr. Mami, what did you observe? One thing I heard that the president, or I saw the president did not take questions. Normally, town hall will have an exchange. What are your thoughts?
So for me, the president said he was coming to the U.S. to meet business leaders across the U.S. That was the justification for him coming a week earlier. So what I was expecting at that town hall was that the president would have disclosed, outcome of some of the meetings he held with business leaders in the U.S. that would have trickled discussion back home, that would have inspired people back home, or even people in the U.S. to know that the president came and he met, business leaders who have been interested in investing in our country. Unfortunately, up to today, the president is expected to be going back very soon. Which business leader he met, what the outcome of that discussion. We cannot see the listing that is associated with a visit, which is picture, which picture he took with those business leader, what happened. Nobody knows. So the president only came here a week earlier, enjoy himself, at least as we can see for now. No business leader, nobody he met, nobody significant that he met, and he's going back. So when I tune into the town hall and couldn't hear anything significant about his almost more than a week stay in America, nobody saw what he was doing. I couldn't hear anything about it. I just felt disappointed and turned it over. But I think we can draw a conclusion based on everything that happened, that the president came to the U.S. to relax, enjoy himself, take picture of a body, and go back to Liberia. Whether Liberians see that as something successful is what they will measure. Whether Liberians see that as an achievement for the president is up to them. But for me, I know that we are sees that as a lifetime achievement, because it's all about him. The fact that he takes picture with Biden, he can put it in the album and hang it in your house. His grandchildren will see it in the future. He's happy. The fact that he can watch football game with Biden, even though Biden posted and did not even recognize his presence, it's okay for him. He's happy. We have fees achieved. You can do anything with Liberia. Weah doesn't care. The fact that he took picture with Biden in the White House, that is his achievement. If Liberians in Liberia who's suffering see that as achievement too, it's up to them. We are telling people to go back home and make farm. He in Liberia, he has farm as president to lead by example.
You're missing that farm in Sinai.
I will send a video to him to play. I will find it. I will send it to him. Weah is in Liberia. He has farm before he telling people in the US to go back to Liberia to make farm. All his ministers around him, his kitchen cabinet, do they have farm? Do they have any investment in farms? I mean, like farm producing food. So, he sometimes he just say things because somebody told him to say it. And sometimes he just say things cluelessly, without any clue he make those comments. There are people in Liberia making farms. We've been engaged extensively with the agriculture sector. They are struggling. Farmers in Liberia today cannot access quality seeds because the market system for the development of seeds and agricultural input is not regulated. They receive substandard seeds from Sierra Leone and other places in Ivory Coast, and when they plant it, the yield are low. When farmers plant rice in Liberia today, they receive 65% less than what other farmers receive as harvest in other regional countries. Farmers are struggling. They can't access market. And then you tell people to leave from here and go there. When the agricultural sector is not regulated, it's underperforming. The emphasis is more on large plantations rather than small farmers who produce food. They don't have access to loans to invest in inputs. When there are agricultural loans intended for smallholder farmers, it lands in the hand of big government officials. Weah does nothing about that. Go look at the loan portfolio, agricultural lending portfolio of the CBL report. Everything goes to what people planting rubber, palm, and cocoa. And these are large farms, the Emmanuel Nunquist of this world, the Edwin Snows of this world. These are the people receiving the Mathieu McGills and their relatives. These are the people receiving government funding. And you tell somebody to go back to Liberia, the people who they're struggling cannot access seeds, cannot access finance. The sector is under-regulated, underperforming. You, the president, is not leading by example of making farm, even though you claim that agriculture is a priority. You don't have a seed in the ground, and then you come to America and tell people to go back to Liberia and make farm. I will send you the clip of the president lying publicly that he has farm in Sino County, and the farm is producing food, and the people in Sino County are using the food to feed themselves. For heaven's sake, George Weah has farm in Sino producing food. That wouldn't be on the front pages of all the newspapers. But besides that, the people of Sino debunk that George Weah has no farm in Sino County.
Thank you. Let me go to Yonton so we can close on this and move to the next. Mr. Yonton, and I'll come to you again.
Yonton again? You started with Yonton, oh man.
No, they didn't start with me. Oh.
No.
They started with Jonathan.
Mr. Yonton, we're talking about town hall. The Papetu have not held town hall. So yeah. So here we see, at least we see a semblance of Weah town hall. Somebody would tell me, say, Honorable Bwaka, like Weah doesn't talk to the people as well.
No, but Dennis, I think we have to correct the information that's been put out there, because the last visit of the former vice president, there was a major town hall meeting.
That was 2 years ago.
But that was his last visit to the U.S.
Okay.
Every time Ambassador Bwaka comes to the U.S., he makes it his business to interact, be with the Liberian community, with business people, with local leaders at the municipality level or at the state level or even at the level of Congress. He makes his he makes his business to interact and plow the flag of Liberia. There are a lot of branding issues in Liberia, and I think sometimes for us in the diaspora, and it's safe to say that living between the two wars, growing up in Liberia, going to high school, graduating from college, and being opportune to be in the U.S., it's safe to say that sometimes we just need this platform. We need that platform to communicate our concerns, to also, give our 2 cents as far as the progress and growth and development of the country is concerned. And we need people who are our leaders to have that, that level of consciousness to bring people together, to listen to them, because that's all we need. There are about 97,000 Liberians in the diaspora. To boast of a dual citizen bill that was just passed, that doesn't even guarantee all of the rights and concerns that were expressed prior to the enactment of that act, is just disingenuous. All right. So I would have thought that moving towards the election, that this president would have done the honorable thing to invite all Liberians. As it is, it wasn't the case. When you look in the crowd, if you watch the footage of the town hall meeting, majority of the people that were there were wearing barracks, CDC barracks. So how can you invite me as a, active citizen in politics who doesn't support this government, but who might want to have the opportunity to listen to the president in terms of his deliverable? How am I going to wear a barrack as as an opposition in that gathering? So it's not just possible that other members of other parties were invited. It's not possible. It was a CDC forum. It was meant to heal Weah. And obviously, CDC don't expect anything from Weah. This is a president that is inherently emptied. This is a president that has no original thoughts. This is a president that if you make mistake in a speech that is reading for him, he read it as it is, and doesn't filter on it. So we have a zero president, mentally, capacity wise, and everything. And Seditians know that. So they only celebrate him because they know that he's a star, he likes being celebrated, and that's all. Seditians are like the president. And this is why, as we move towards 2023, the diaspora has to unite. I think more than ever, we have to speak in unison, in one verse. If we are to unite around to fix the mess, to correct the mess that the Weah administration has created, we have to unify ourselves, go into the direction. It doesn't matter whether you're from the ANC or you're from the Unity Party or you support, Councillor Tewon Gonglo. We have to unite around a common cause, around a common agenda, and move the interests of our country forward and remove Weah by defeating him in 2023. And that's the only option that we have.
Thank you. Morris, you got a last word on this topic before you. The town hall. Did you attend?
No, I mean I'm too far from the town hall. I'm in Massachusetts. There's no way I could have attended that. I'm not driving 7 hours to go listen to President Weah saying, well done. No, I'm not going to do that. But overall, I thought, I wasn't surprised with what I'm hearing about the result of the town hall. But more interestingly then is the contradiction within the president's speech about the role of diaspora and the town hall engagement. They are complete oxymoron. So they're completely opposite. He says one thing at the USA Africa Leadership Forum, how important the diaspora is, but he's unable to meet a wide range of Liberians of different political persuasions to talk about the country, where the country is. When you are a leader of the country, you're not leader of a political party. You are the president of the opposition and the president of all the seditions that you are head of. So that town hall would have been a message of hope to say, well, my people have come here, first of all, to say thank you to all of you because, I'm the president. I bring you a message from Liberia. Things are not easy in Liberia. It's difficult. But here is the problem. I want all of you to work with me because you have a critical role in Liberia. Your responsibility in Liberia is X, Y, and Z. That kind of message of hope, that message of, unity. the message of the role the diaspora play. Policy wise, what am I going to do now? Now that I've delivered this message to the USA Africa, forum, what role am I going to play now to say, hey, diaspora Liberians, I'm going to set up a secretariat in the executive mansion in the foreign ministry where you can come and, find places where you feel you fit, effectively. And then when you find that place, this secretariat will work with you to try to create that smooth transition for you so there's no barriers, so that we can remove all those barriers that are usually in place where people struggle. We can't do any of that. Those are simple things that we could have done. He can't do it. He come to a town hall meeting. He's under this illusion by his surroundings that when people they come and embarrass you. So we're not putting, it'll be, a all CDC affair where we're buried and we're impressed on the people not to come to this event. And so you take away all the opportunities that diaspora have, unfortunately.
That is so sad. We will move to our next discussion, which is
Dennis.
Yeah,
I want to make one comment.
go ahead.
What I noticed is the president was talking to just two people in that whole gathering. You were talking about the group that support him, and he was talking to those who do not support him. But then he forgot to talk to the independents. There are people who are independent minded that he could appeal to. But once he felt like those that were surrounding him were cheering him up, he just threw jabs at opposition, but then totally forgot about the independents.
Yeah, these are the people. So we're going to go to our next, which is LBDI. But before we do that, let's take a short mental break and listen to the song Minister Tua was singing at a time we're celebrating for the MCC, passing the MCC scorecard. I mean, there's no song that I enjoy as a young man going to church in my hometown, and I don't know why Minister Tua decided to butcher the song like this. But anyway, I think there's a need for celebration passing the MCC scorecard, but how did it translate into what we need? That's another story. Well, let's go to LBDI and little history about LBDI. That's the Liberian Bank for Development and Investment. It was created by an act of the National Legislature in 1961. Since 1988, LBDI has also acted as a commercial bank. It's owned by both public and private shareholders, institutions, and individuals. And what is the goal? Why did we set up this bank? To facilitate the creation and expansion of small, medium, and large-scale productive businesses in various sectors, such as agriculture, industrial, and service industry, including tourism vendors. Also, to provide increased goods and services for the rapidly growing consumption requirements of the economy. Mr. Mame, of late, we've been hearing LBDI is in the news. It started with the president using fake credentials. He was exposed by Mr. Martin Colley and his group that he faked it to make it. And I said one person can be a fraud. There's a vetting committee, there's a board, and everybody. How did this guy get in? So with that, he was fired or he resigned, and now we have all these financial troubles. There is a purported borrower's list that came out, even though they deny it. And I joked about it. I said the list is as fake as their president's credentials. Mr. Mambe, what's going on here? LBDI, what does it say? I'm getting your feedback here. What does it say about our way of doing things in Liberia? This LBDI is not a private commercial bank.
So you are right. Yeah, I'm getting feedback.
Yeah. Go ahead. Let me see where it's coming from.
Yeah, you getting me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I say, yeah, you are right. LBDI is owned mostly by the government, has the highest share of all the different shareholders. But because an investment bank, so it attracts investment from private and other corporations. I think Firestone also has a share in LBDI. I think 1% share, several other different institutions. NASCOP is the second highest shareholder in LBDI. That's the reason why NASCOP is on the board. The president of NASCOP is on the board, and the finance minister is on the board. Regarding the appointment of the director, I'm one of the campaigners for the academic crimes code, and we did the investigation of the directors of the president's resume, the information on his resume before becoming president for LBDI. It was clear that it was fraudulent. We did all the due diligence and we collected all the evidence both from Harvard and from the Oxford University. The second set of our investigation will be coming out soon, and that is focused more on the places he said he worked and the role he claimed he worked in. But we'll hold on to that until we can, get all the T's and that's, the T crossed and the I's started to come up with that. But like you rightly said, is one person cannot make a fraud. We have copy of the evaluation report from the institution that conducted the evaluation to hire him. 6 candidates were shortlisted. Out of the 6 candidates, he was rated the least. Of the 6 candidates that were shortlisted and interviewed, this candidate was rated the least of the 6 candidates. He scored 0. I can share the report with you. He scored 0 on the fundamental requirement of having banking experience in Liberia. The fundamental requirement, as per the job description that was published, is you must have banking experience of no less than 15 years in Liberia. He has 0 years of experience working in Liberia banking sector, but he was hired. This is the information we gathered. All fingers were pointed to Samuel Tuer. But later did we know that this guy lived with George Weah in France as a kid. It's George Weah speaking. He lived with George Weah in France, according to the report, very credible report we got. He was part of the reason why George Weah and his, female friends will always have problems. Because if you don't respect him, George Weah will let you go for his sake. That the extent to which he was intimate and he was close to Weah in France. From France, they went to Italy. That's how he stuck in Italy. From France, they went to Italy. He lived with Weah in Italy. And then when Weah got ready to replace John Davis, Weah sent for him and told Samuel Tuer to get him a job. That is the foundation of what you see happening today. So that is around the MDCEO. When you come to the bank itself and the management and all the issues surrounding credits, is deeper than what you're seeing. The less you see circulated a distraction. John Davis, and you see, people are acting very crafty. John Davis tenure expired. What Weah and Tuer and the other people in the George Weah inner circle did was they kept John Davis illegally in the bank for 4 years because his tenure had expired. So they put him in a position where his tenure is now renewed, but also he's not dismissed, and use his insecurity, his job insecurity, to allow him to do a lot of things. One, when the IMF blocked the president from lending from the central bank, because most of his activities, those off-budget spending, president meter project, president, how they call it, some project they had, they were carrying solar light. Besides solar light, they were doing president transformer project, building roads. Most of those things were outside of the budget. And where they were receiving funding from to do that, because it was outside the budget, were through state-owned enterprises and borrowing from the central bank directly to the government. When the IMF cut that off, they ran to LBDI. That's what put LBDI increased the financial trouble LBDI found itself in today. If you check in Liberia's national budget for 2020, you will see that the government has to provide additional financing to LBDI. The reason was, between 2018 to 2020, when IMF blocked President Weah from crediting from the central bank, they ran to LBDI. SSF, there's a construction company called SSF. They awarded a lot of community road projects to that particular company, outside of the competitive bidding process, inflated the cost of those roads, and authorized LBDI to pay funds as credit to SFF. And if the government pay SFF, then SFF will pay LBDI. Because the government did not generate the revenue and pay SFF, SFF could not pay LBDI. LBDI fell in financial crisis. So the loan list you see that people want to attribute to LBDI financial crisis is not only because of individual lenders. The government itself was a major borrower of LBDI after they stopped borrowing from central bank. And most of the funds they borrowed were inflated costs of contracts for road construction, president meter project, president transformer project, those small housing units they were building around. They used LBDI to pull money out, give portion of it to contractors, take the rest, and then they could not pay LBDI. LBDI ended in crisis, and the IMF recommended. Now, if LBDI will operate as an embarrassment to the financial sector, then the best to do is to close LBDI. But LBDI must operate because it has an act of legislation. It must operate. Now, the operation was condition precedent that LBDI would be recapitalized. And that's how the government was pressured to put additional, I think I got the number here, to put additional, sorry, I left the number somewhere.
Right, that's okay.
Yeah, but I can get it and share with you. So in the national budget, they had to provide additional funding to LBDI. And the precondition was, if this John Davis, who sat as president of the bank, closed his eyes on all the risk factor, undermine all the process that's supposed to lead to credible lending, if he sat there and allowed the government to use LBDI that way, he cannot be the one to preside over the new LBDI with additional financing, both from the government and IMF. That's how they decided to change John Davis. Today, John Davis cannot come to America. He was denied visa based on administrative processing. That's the U.S. government interest in LBDI when you see the ambassador talking about the financial sector.
Yeah, the ambassador is talking again. Mr. Kroma, those, even though the list that is out there has not been authenticated, but there are some on the list who say, yes, I owe the bank.
Yeah. And I thought I found that very interesting that, some of the people are coming up publicly saying now that, yeah, I'm here, I owe the bank. Either, some of them are saying now, well, I've cleared my own loan. I just want to be on the record. And other people saying, well, I still owe the bank and I'm trying to negotiate. The problem with that is that I want to take it from a different angle. I see where Abdullah is going with, with the bank president that resigned. But I want to talk about the structural issues that is within the bank system and put that against what is happening all across the country. It's not a normal thing.
That was my next question, but go ahead.
It's becoming normalized in Liberia, where everything that is wrong is acceptable.
Yeah.
I mean, assuming that all of the things that Abdullah just put out with John Davis and this Dio guy, shouldn't there be some sort of prosecutions? Shouldn't there be some sort of investigation where what happened to all this money and who is responsible for it? If everything is just being brushed under the carpet, there's no way, no matter where you come from, no matter what education you have, two things can come out. Two things can be true at the same time. One is that it could be that this young man who, Abla is he's claiming that he and his team investigated a guy, he has some flaw with his education. It could be this guy was actually good intention with flawed education, having very good intention to say, well, this bank has to be resuscitated, it has to be re-imaged. And to do that, you have to go against some of the big people in this country. But the Liberian culture does not allow that. So because if you start to fight these people, then they find a way to destroy you. So you pick on the most vulnerable aspect of the guy, professional background, whether it's education now, his experience, whatever it is that Abla and that team and what's the guy name from Facebook, whatever the background investigation is, they use that as a justification to say, let's bring this man down. And then this issue now about all of the big wigs that owe in the bank, if the U.S. ambassador had not spoken about it, it wouldn't have come out in public to talk about who owed the bank and who should be held accountable. None of that was going to happen. The entire central discussion was going to be around this young man who came and served a few months, and his credentials are questioned now, and he left the bank. That's the only conversation that's going to happen. So there are structural issues in the country. The psyche, the way we think Liberians is wrong. When we try to challenge that, Samuel Toy is a very, very good friend of mine. And I say it most of the time publicly. I don't hide away from it because I know how much we're very close, right? But I'm one person that is very critical of Toy. And people say because I envy him. Okay, if you think so, fine. But the point I'm making here is that we have to stand up to our friends and our colleagues. Regardless of the ethnicity, the religion, whatever, we have to stand up to these people. And what that young man was doing, let somebody within the bank say, this thing can die. Let's continue to push so that those people can come back and pay this money back to the bank. Because the reason these things are dying is because somebody raised it up. It came up from somewhere. And I really believe that whatever that young man was doing, somebody wants to kill it, and that's the reason why he's out of the bank now. We need to find a way to make sure that those things don't die. Those people that owe all that amount to the bank, let's ensure that those people actually pay that money back.
Right, Morris, what exactly was he doing?
I disagree.
That's fine. I'm not saying it for you to agree. That's fine.
Yeah, I disagree. And let me tell you
my
why.
The point I'm making here the point I'm making here is that the big wigs that in the country, Front Page Africa posted some of the pictures on the story. And the guy actually, stated some of the things that he himself admitted that something wrong with his credential, but he challenged anybody else to produce, any contrary evidence to his work experience in the other education. He posted his certificate from, the school that he went to and explained some of the background. But my point here is that there are structural issues that need to be fixed in the country. And I don't say you should agree, Abdullah, but I'm just making my point,
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I just wanted to say something regarding, loan recovery. So there is a law on loan recovery in Liberia. I worked with the bank for over 7 years in managerial position before joining government. I work as manager for commercial banking. So I know what I'm talking about. So there are procedures. There are procedures laid down on loan recovery. You can publish the names of delinquent borrowers. We did it before. So he's not the first person coming to Liberia to talk about delinquent borrowing and publishing delinquent borrowers list. Go back to early to 2016 to 2017. We published list of delinquent Magini on that list, in fact. So it's not anything strange.
But Abdullah,
what is happening is most time when these bank managers come to the bank, they want to introduce themselves to debtors. Those are the pathway they use. Where in the world a bank president, where show me anywhere in the world that a bank president will be discovered to have fraudulent credential and be meeting on the job because he's supposed to pursue delinquent borrowers. Where the fact that you admit, or the fact that it is established that you fraudulently altered your credential to get a job, you don't have any character to pursue delinquent borrowers.
But like,
no bank can do it.
Thank you, Mommy. I want to bring in other panelists.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but I mean, just before the other people come out, I'd be like, maybe you actually come into this thing misunderstand everything I just said. One, I acknowledge that yes, he actually admitted that something is wrong. He's gone. But the issues that were raised should not die. You admitted to that also. You acknowledge that there are people on the list of borrowers that are in the bank that is causing the bank to be the way it is. You admitted that actually functionaries within government have taken money from the bank, and that's what crippled the government. That's what crippled the bank. So I'm saying, where is the process of that process continuing? Where is the prosecution? Where is the investigation? Those kinds of things. So I'm not worried about the character of the individual.
But Dennis, I think we can ask each other question, right? Because Boris, I got a question for you, though.
If the individual that is gone is the cause of these issues being coming up, we wouldn't have known about this thing if the individual name had not come up. Nobody would have known that these people owe the bank. We would not know. But the fact that he's leaving and this thing is up now, let's ensure that it doesn't die. Let's continue to make sure those people also are held accountable for the money that they owe to the bank.
Morris, just a quick question. The narrative that came out after the fight, right, on Dio.
Mm-hmm.
If you believe that 100%, why would Dio go after private citizens and not government official?
You asking me the question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I can't speak for Dio. I'm not Dio's spokesperson, but I'm saying.
But you're speaking to what seems a pattern for him.
But you asked a question.
Or a legacy of his short tenure. That's what he's speaking to, right?
Yes.
What he started.
Yes.
So, given what he started, why was he only targeting private citizens and not people that were hugely borrowing within the government corridors?
I can't speak for Dio, like I said. I'm not Dio's spokesperson, but let me say what I want to say. If I was, a bank president and I had the opportunity to come and do an audit, a live audit of what the bank structure, the bank current position was, I will find the delinquent list, and whatever medium by which I choose to go after people that are on that delinquent list, I can't say where I have to go beyond people because they are government officials and those are in private sector. No, it's a lame justification to say, well, he went after private citizens and now after government officials. They are on delinquent list. So if the man chose to go after one person that is a private citizen versus who's in the government, it's still.
Morris, are you saying he's the one? He started doing something, and because of that, they didn't like it. That's why they brought about this credential issue. Is that what you are implying?
Yes, that's what I'm assuming. I'm not. I don't have the facts on it, but that's what I'm assuming.
You don't have the facts. Let me. Yes. All right. Jonathan, Laraman, let Laraman complete. Maybe you have something else to say before I go to.
No, I think given all that we see with LBDI, right? This is not going to stop even if we are not careful. This is not going to stop even after the Weah administration. What we see is a majestic skill at which corruption play out in the public sector. I think we need to start having a conversation around revisiting the act that created LBDI and make it 100% private investment bank, so that governments stop having this enormous amount of share, right? So even like if you look at the investment notes, you have people that Abdullah mentioned. You have NABSCO. NABSCO is a government private entity.
Should we be afraid of our own government now that we can't even let them hold our money?
I mean, we've seen the play out of everything, But the point here is that if we move towards that direction, I think we are taking some serious strategic finding long-term solution to the problem, because it's still going to be the same problem as it persists. But the point I wanted to make here is that if we are investing, if we moving this to 100% private investment bank, you give it the opportunity for the board of directors to have a high level of independence, right? So no longer will be influenced by people who are powerful within the political cycle. Like we saw the appointment of Dio. It was highly influenced by political forces within the corridors of the CDC. I mean, it's new to me with the revelation that Ambula is giving on the relationship this guy had with Weah. But to a larger extent, Twe played a major role in the appointment of this. So now I think based on the instruction of Weah on his own instruction, but I also know that Twe has a very good relationship with this young man, and they have had some relationship in the past. So we cannot continue to hire people, and this has been the credential and DNA and modus operandi of this government. Hire people who are incompetent based on connection and based on political party alignment. And this is totally wrong. And that's what we see ravaging with the whole LBDI cycle.
Yesterday we had a show on Tough Talking Thursday, and the title was "Is a government, is it a reflection of the people?" Or and I mean this level of corruption and ineptness that we see right there with LBDI, a guy who reportedly faked his credential. What does it say about our society, the government, and the people? Alice.
Exactly.
It is
Hello?
unbelievable. Very, very unbelievable that somebody who, according to Miami, has zero in the process of employment, and other candidates, more qualified people that could have taken a position, were let down because of him. So all these people that vetted him knew that he was not qualified, yet they did because he had connections. But
So,
having connection and doing what the people want, that could be one of the reasons why they chose him, because when he gets to the bank, all the fraudulent behavior of borrowing money without paying, adding up loan when you cannot pay back, those things were going to continue. So now he got there and he decided to pursue the little people. But at the end of the day, the whole thing backfired. And here he is today out. That's the problem we have with Liberia. It's very, very difficult to fight corruption because when you try to do that, they're going to come back at you. Either they will find way to forcefully connect you, or they will try to dig and find some dirt. The same dirt that they knew already the guy had before they gave him the job. Later on, that dirt came out from other sources. So it is really, really troubling how we can make this country a better place when it seems like the people are just so, I mean, into corruption. You can't get it out. What can we do? So sad.
Jonathan, what can we do?
firstly, we have to condemn it at every level, be it the person associating themselves with me, with my institution, with my political party, with government, in the church, in the mosques, at every level, it should be condemned. And the way to do it is to delineate between what is believed to be Delaney's scope of operation as to exposing those people after the dismissal versus the inaccuracy, which is an apportionment of corruption tool about Delaney credential. Ambula gave some striking revelation that maybe we are not following very carefully. 2018, Minister Nathaniel McGill, Minister of State for Presidential Affairs and Chief of Office Staff of the President's Office, friend to President Weah and Chairman of the Congress for Democratic Change, a coalition for democratic change, was heard going into a loan discussion of 200,000 United States dollars to purchase a home when President Weah himself was on the spiel of building his condominium. That 200,000 was believed to have been processed through the Liberia Bank for Development and Investment. Minister McGill was then a presidential appointee for less than 6 months. And there's a loan portfolio scheme for presidential appointees as opposed to civil servants or people who are in tenure position. The insecurity for presidential appointee is that it can be fired at will and pleasure by the president at any given time. So this minister who have had no loan process before by history of LBDI was now about to get 200,000 barely 6 months down the line when his salary could not serve as a guarantee to the process, neither his portfolio that was under question, and he could be fired at the will of the president at any time. So you could smell high level of corruption. Today, the Delani person is appointed by an individual who played a statutory role on the LBDI board, which is Minister Samuel Toy. And with all of his inaccuracy, multiplying it by the narrative of Ambula Mohammed holding everything satirical parables or holding them constant, it demonstrates clearly that this government is in the web of massive corruption that sometimes we just see the skirmishes on the wall, but in depth, this government is rotting to the core of corruption and indecency. The contracts to this government and other institutions is the most recent thing that happened with the CPP, that they are scorning one of their drivers for allegedly going away with 70,000 as alleged, that have come to public knowledge. So imagine what are those things that we are not informed. Imagine how it takes for us to know this man if we, and he came through the process in a clandestine manner. Imagine why with an LBDI CEO or president will be denied of American visa when it comes from a financial discipline background that should serve as an embed, as a springboard to accessing American visa. So there are too many things that within the process, and it just exposing itself as time go by. It is unfortunate that we'll have these things happening in our country, but it cannot be changed until we take on this government and remove it democratically. That's the only answer to the process. And that's why President Weah is an accomplice to all the crimes and all the happenings about stealing in our country.
Thank you, Jonathan. Talking about changing the government, today is the eve of the We Are Tired Suffering rally that's been organized by the CPP. Okay, so on the eve today, we had our press conferences, one from Mr. Cummings, kind of rallying the crowd to join for the rally tomorrow. At the same time, there were 70,000 reportedly lost or got stolen by the driver of the head or one of the heads of the We Are Tired Suffering rally. First of all, Jonathan, you are a member of the ANC and CPP. Let me ask you, the purpose of the rally is to tell the government that we are tired of suffering. Then what?
Then when we say to the government that we are tired of suffering, there are a number of things that will be listed that government has not done, either by their inaction or lack of action to demonstrate the will on their part.
You have no
And
demand. You
so
only going to say, I'm tired of suffering.
we have no demand.
You have no demand. You are just making a declarative statement with tired of suffering. So what?
Yeah. So that is the catchy statement of the rally. But in duty, there will be lists of things that we think that government has not done appropriately, that will attract, that will make our image better, and that will help us to attract investment, that will help us to deploy our resources into ventures that we can get return. Take for instance, how in this war can $100,000, it's $100 million worth of drugs laying in our country without any accomplice, without anybody being held accountable. It did not pass through Butuo. It was not cross border. It was not a polarized border points. It came through our free port, and it has to take our international partner, the USA, to track this situation down without anybody taking full responsibility, whether agents of government. That is a sign that we are not prepared, and the government is inviting these kind of situation that will blackmail the image of our country. So the government is not only stealing, the government is blackmailing our image. We are yet to hear about the passport saga. What have been the stringent measures that government has taken to redeem our image? We are yet to hear from the president, who has the committee on the sanction former officials. What is the time deadline for it? What a report have been made? What are the investigation? Whether they are waiting the U.S. Treasury Department to furnish the committee with experts and funds associated to expedite the prosecution of those officials. These are issues that we want to confront the government on, and they are policy issues. Whether the biometric process.
Let me exhaust my question, and then the other colleagues can come in. Right. The next thing is $70,000 got missing. I don't know if you know the details of this story, because it really doesn't sound very convincing to me. But why do you need 70,000 to restate what many of us already know we are suffering? And now it's lost.
Thank you, Dennis. Rally of this nature, to be controlled and well guarded, had always required resources. First, generating those resources had not been a particular source. It had always been about people who believe in it, people who want to contribute to it. So we have always generated resources, be it June 7 rally or even a CPP rally. So the resources were generated among members of the people who believe in the rally. Second point is that why do we need such an amount to go ahead with a rally purpose that it is widely believed that people should be able to show up? Some of the reasons why the resources were generated, that people gathering in a particular square, there are medical, hiccups that comes along with the process. So you needed ambulances to be around to be able to intervene in areas. You needed nurses who are not politicians.
There are people at JFK who gave birth. They can't go home because they can't afford. And you want to go to SKD to go treat people? I don't get it. But
no, Dennis, listen to this. When you gather crowd, when you gather hundreds of thousands of people, there must be a backup plan in the eventuality that people who cannot withstand those crowd, when they fall off, there must be a mitigating means by which you can treat them immediately. So it was meant for ambulances, it was meant for logistics, it was meant for too many things. People will not walk from Broadway to come to a rally. Of course, you must have a conveyor belt. People need to have use the latrine. Minister Zoga Weah already told you that the bathroom meant for the SKD will not be used. So you need a mobile bathroom meant for people to utilize so that that place can remain tidied, so that it cannot be that filled. So those resources would have been geared towards that particular process. So
my last question is, how did the 70,000 get lost, and what was Mr. Kula doing with it? Is he the controller, disbursing officer? How?
And so Mr. Martin Sekula, who is the Deputy Secretary General of the CPP, is the head of the Retire Suffering Rally. So if resources were collected from different volunteers who contributed willfully, and he gathered those resources and probably was on his way to disbursing some of them for the number of things that we have listed, it means it was in his realm to do that. I just think that the normal societal stuff that people believe that they can take what belongs to everybody for one person usage had just played on the mind of the young fellow who was in the comfort zone of Martin Kula and thought that there was the golden opportunity ever in his life. These things happen because we have tried to decorate impunity. We have demonstrated that people who steal these things, they can be successful. That my man, you just got to take that thing at your last chance. So we have to remove ourselves from that school of thought to know that when it does not belong to you, it is not for you. So it is just unfortunate that that young fellow have derailed the character and reputation of his family in such a manner. But again, it does not give anyone the reason for which they should steal, whether in CPP, whether in government, whether in taxes, anywhere for that matter.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me bring in Mr. Yonton, who as a line does not support this rally. Mr. Yonton, we in the States, right? If you are giving someone 70,000 cash, you will put some processes and procedure in place to avoid, it being stolen or getting lost, because this is raw cash. So does that look to you doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results? Because that's the way we've been carrying money all along. First of all, overall, what you make of the rally and also the charges or the report that 70,000 got lost from Mr. Kula?
I think you see a high degree of system failure. When my brother Jonathan would say that someone who is the Deputy Secretary General at the level of CPP, but also heads the rally, I think there should be a semblance of structure. So you have on one hand someone who heads the rally, you have on another hand someone who's responsible for press and propaganda, and you have someone who's responsible for handling finances, assuming that we want to agree with his logic and argument that ordinary people who are supposed to be turning out for a rally who are already suffering will put in 2 cents and 3 cents together to reach 70,000, assuming that these people are putting the money together. What happened to the financial secretary or the treasurer? Why is Martin Kula, who is the head of this exercise, who's supposed to be ensuring that people are doing their duties and that reports are made to him, handling 70,000 of raw cash? This is not in check. It's not at the bank. It's raw cash, real physical money. And that tells you the disturbing history of this man, which, I will not want to go into for people who know and have seen him from Linsu days to the moment where he sold out from the office of Senator Dillon. And I think the driver have, clearly documented all of these instances of Martin's disturbing history with money. And so, but overall, it shows the lack of organization and structure. But let's go to the overall philosophy of the rally. It's one thing to organize around suffering. My take on the philosophy of the rally is that it's a good thing. We all don't argue that the country is in a deep mess. There are situations of, hardship. Many Liberians are poor. Basic social commodities have skyrocketed. The people live in abject poverty, rape on the rise. We have an entire system that is paralyzed, whether it's education, health, and on top of that, we have an insensitive president that seems not to care at all. It is concerning for all of us, for people who have and people who don't have. The economists will say the haves versus the have not. But the philosophy around this rally seems to mean that you have a few bunch of people who are rallying on behalf of the people and not rallying the people themselves. And that's a contradiction in my mind. Now, it's one thing to rally the people, but when you stand in the gap to rally on behalf of the people, you're leaving the rest of the citizens out. You're leaving the people as far as Zensu in Bon County are. You're leaving the people as far as Vuadi in Sano County, where I'm from, out. You cannot have a serious political rally that tend to governize and organize the masses of our people who are impoverished and leave the rest of them out in the name of having a small concocted gathering at SKD. The seat of the executive mansion is not at SKD, it's not in Pinsley City, it's in Monrovia. I would have rather seen a poor people march like what we had during the days of the civil movement right here in America, when it became very clear and apparent that the blacks were seriously marginalized by system, design, and structure. It took a Martin Luther King to march on Washington. We'd rather see a poor people's march at the executive mansion on Monrovia as opposed to a mere bourgeoisie rally organized by few people who are not suffering but want to use the appetite and taste of the masses struggle to their own benefit. That's a caricature, and this is what we stand against.
Mrs. Mama, what's your take?
First of all, I feel like
Jonathan, please take notes.
People have their own constitutional right to march and not to march. If you were to ask me as an individual whether I will get in the street to march, I will definitely tell you no. I feel like the rally is being staged by people who definitely are not suffering. Some of them are doing it for their own personal benefits. And the Liberian people are there to be used by these people. December is right here. Christmas is around the corner, where people are supposed to be with their families and think about the year that is coming, the election year that is coming, and other good things for their families. Now you have them marching. In the middle of that, bam, 70,000 is missing. Now, if you want to make a difference and you have such a thing happening before even the march, then how do you expect us to think that there's, that somebody who is heading the rally or people that are heading the rally are going to do any better? First of all, the person that is keeping the money is not a treasurer. That's not even a financial controller. So you're supposed to already jot down what people are supposed to do. If somebody is responsible for t-shirt, that money is supposed to be with a person to buy the t-shirt. If somebody is responsible for cool air or whatever, cold water, that money is supposed to be with a person. You can't have a bunch of money in a car or wherever and travel with it. That is not discipline at all. And this is where we are. You can't tell me people who are struggling will collect money. They'd rather take that money to buy rice. Rice is right now very expensive. So nobody going to pay you $5 towards the protest. No, that money came from somewhere. And now it's missing. So it's not the people that are already suffering gave that money. You could have given that 70,000 to them if you have too much money. Give it to them. Like some of them said on the video. We need money to, do other things. So if you have so much money, give it to us. But the Liberian people are already prepared to go to election and vote the person that they want to vote. I think all the rally and all these things are distraction to the. And mind you, December 24th is around the corner. All the rallies are making me uneasy because we know what happened December 24, 1989, when our country was plunged into war. And December 24 is around the corner, and you had different matches going. You don't know who are going to participate in the matches. So as we stand, we are looking very carefully to see what happens tomorrow. But we have elements within the rally that don't represent the people, because when they had the opportunity to allow democracy to flow, they never did. So how right now, how can they say they are any different? So we have to be careful what we do. We can't keep using the Liberian people, just for personal gains. We have to be honest. Some people in a rally might be honest, but some of them are not, because they want to use it for personal gain. And that's why if I were asked today to be on the street to march, I would tell you definitely no, I'm not going to do it. But I respect people's right to exercise their democracy in any way they can.
Thank you, Morris. In the press conferences the press conference that was held, I didn't see Martin Kula making any statement. You've been around elections and campaign and all these things. How does it work? If you are doing a march or if you're doing a campaign, do you see one person carrying the money? What's your take on this and the entire suffering rally?
I'm really happy that you asked that question, Dennis, because I was gonna just make the same point, and I'm glad you brought the question up. So
there's a reason they call me the well-rounded Dennis Jah.
So in the context of Liberia, if you ever participated in a political rally or some sort of protest, these are the way that they happen. I don't think something fundamentally wrong happened with how they were organizing. Usually, Liberia is a cash-based society. It's not like the US where everything is cashless. We can do Cash App, we can do Zelle, we can do all that. You can't do that in Liberia. If you go to someone that has a bus to commute people, you have to get them physical cash to say, here's your money. I want you to move people from this point to that point. So there has to be a central point. There has to be a central person. Now, whether it's the Secretary General, Financial Secretary, that was within the internal structure. I don't have a part to play in that. But the point is that there has to be somewhere where there is cash available to move transactions around, whether printing T-shirts, moving people. I've done it before. I've seen it. I've done some of that transaction before.
That time there was no mobile money. We have mobile money now.
So okay, one person can handle all those things.
So the point I'm making here is that because Liberia is a cash-based society, people tend to carry huge sums of money like that. Go to the bank, withdraw all the money, put it in the bag, and go to point A, point B to do some of these transactions. Now there's mobile money. Yeah, that could be an option to pursue. On the idea of the protest, let's be honest. Some of the same structural issues that are happening within the government are the same structural issues that are happening inside the opposition. We can't debate. We shouldn't sugarcoat. We shouldn't pass around and try to make it look like there's, this thing is about this individual. Actually, it is about people's personal interest in this process. You take Louis Brown from there. You take all the people that are trying to organize the protest. Martin Kula, you take all of them from there right now and take a new breed of opposition people and put them over that protest. There will still be opposition to it. People will say, no, I'm not going that thing there because it's about Yonton, it's about Costa, it's about Boga Jaleba. So no matter who you put in that frame, there is going to be some sort of issue. People are going to have some sort of disagreement with it. So it's the same thing. We have a selfish society where people think about themselves. They don't think about the collective. Otherwise, the truth of the matter is, like Yonton put it clearly, there are issues, economic issues in the country. The country is difficult. People are struggling. I want to put my man business, a public official, a government official, a deputy minister that I sent him money just 2 weeks ago. That's how difficult things are. But here is it, that even with all the difficulties that happen in the country, We can rally around an idea to say, okay, this is an idea. It's not about me. Let's fight this thing because we have to save our country. All of us say we want to save this country. If you go to ANC, you go to United Party, ALP, all the opposition political party, everybody have this single idea of saving the country from President Weah. But the fundamental question is, who is in front of that ticket is where the problem comes from. Who gets the credit? Everybody worry about who gets the credit. It can't be about Cummings. It can't be about how you call it, Omen Boakai. If you put Boakai there will be problem. You put Cummings there will be problem. How do we save this country now? How are we going to face this country? We're talking about all the issues. All the economics that we talk about, you bring all these opposition put together, put in the room. You bring Yonton, you bring Stephen Johnson, more Ali, then you put in the rooms, gentlemen. You'll develop an economic framework for this country. I swear to God, they will now come from that room for an agreement. Because everybody worry about who gets the credit. That's why people start telling you they get 2 master's degrees, opposite get 3 master's degrees. So there is a fundamental issue that is wrong with the country, Dennis, that needs to be fixed. That issue about post-conflict development, that fancy characterization, we refuse to face the fundamentals after the conflict. And that is what is seeping through all of our different systems now. So everywhere you see us, you see we're fighting here, we disagree. It's because we didn't fix the fundamental after the conflict. The issues about how we interact with each other, we didn't fix that. So we're having all these issues that we're having now. You know, character problems, 70 million. I don't even think that's 70,000 to be. And I said in the chat room, I think something is deeper than it. But you know, I don't know the facts, so I can say about it. There are deeper issues.
You are saying that some of these issues now, even in America, people having parties. Somebody will go there and just steal the whole part of rice. They don't even take any piece.
So why? So Dennis, ask yourself, why is it that when Liberians come to America, we report to work on time? 7 o'clock. Is 7 o'clock be there? We'll be there 7 o'clock. When they say be there 5 o'clock in the morning, we'll cut our sleep. We'll take 2 hours to take the public transport. We'll go to that place. We'll be there 5 o'clock in the morning. But take the same Liberian from here, carry them back to Liberia. The culture change. That person's behavior and psychology change automatically because they're in Liberia. There's something about Liberia that is wrong.
That's a system.
Something that is right about America. There is accountability here. There is structure here. There's no accountability. There's no structure there.
And the people, Mr. Mame.
But speaking of accountability, I
think. Hold on, Mr. Yanta. Let me go to Mame.
No, to him.
No, because we focus on the rally, right? I think if accountability should start, let's start with Martin. Martin was given that huge lump sum of raw cash. He must be held accountable no matter who stole it. It could be a husband or whatever, because in the U.S. that's it. You are held accountable from the top.
That's right.
And held responsible for the actions of your subordinate.
That's why I was surprised. We didn't even hear him make any public statement. And
maybe he's been investigated, so he should keep his comments. That's how I assume.
Well, then we should be told that he's being investigated, but
he actually wrote a letter. He wrote a letter to the Ministry of Justice.
According to it, said that letter is not true.
You say the letter is not true?
Jonathan,
the press conference says it's a fake letter.
It said the letter is fake.
Okay.
Everything is fake. People are fake.
The letter is fake. So if money got missing in your hands, there was a time that the late great D. Allison was accused of killing Patrolman Melvin Pine so that he could use the blood to stage a coup. And so he was accused of doing this with another person called Joe Lisoli. So his argument was, if I want to stage a coup, why would I not contact my colleagues, Jenkins Scott, people at my level? Why would I go to a new man, Joe Lisoli, to discuss this? My question is, why would this driver, if he wants to steal, that means he should connive with somebody at his level, right? Why is it that it's just Martin Kola and the driver alone? What gives him that confidence around 70,000 that he believes he can take it anytime? So I'm wondering, Why is it that a mountain cola is so trusting the driver with 70,000?
Yeah.
Is it that they have been in those kind of interactions and business deals before? Amula, help me out here.
For me, I want to give the investigation chance to go on so we see what come out of it. But it's not about trusting. You know, some of us work in Liberia before, we have brothers, family member who I don't like to drive. That's just me. I will always like somebody to drive me. Even in America, if I had the means, I will hire a driver. Unfortunately, it's very cost prohibitive here to say you hire me a driver. So I'm compelled to drive myself because I don't have the means to pay a driver in America. But I don't like to drive. So
But
normally in
you
Liberia,
think
people
Kula
take,
got a job that he can afford to pay a driver? Well, he
come
was
again.
working at the DeLong's office and he's no longer there. Where does he work?
Oh no! So the thing is, I know when last you being in Liberia, so you can have one of the boys in the one of the area boys in the community who can drive. He's your confidant. He's your friend. You can send him on errand. When you go into work, you say, "My man, he's not working. He doesn't have a job." He feel comfortable being around you. You help him maybe pay his daughter's school fee or maybe pay his son's school fees, and he be your own person that can take you to places. So it's not like you hiring him to pay him on a monthly basis. Part time. Sometimes you go in somewhere, you don't take him. Sometimes you go in somewhere, my man can carry me long distance, and you're responsible to pay a dollar school fee more, and you give him some rice and stuff like that. Those are things we did in Liberia. Those are normal things.
Yeah,
but
but
then,
where does he work? He the Kula.
who Kola? Kola is the Secretary General of CPP. Is it where he works? It's a political actor.
That's a
No,
paid job.
the
He
same
has a
is
school.
Secretary General. He's
Okay.
the deputy, I think.
He has a school.
He's the Secretary General for Liberty Party, but they don't get paid.
Beyond the fact that
Kola has a school.
Yeah, beyond the fact that he has a school, he's interacting with Musa Belete and Cummings.
Yeah, Musa Belete has money. Musa Belete can decide to pay. Let's be realistic, brother.
Yeah.
Musa Belete can decide to give Kula $1,000 every month.
Yeah.
Musa can afford that.
Yeah.
He has a school.
More.
So he can get somebody to say, well, I'll get you some on the $5.
Yeah.
Trying to pay your son.
In my town, they say you can't beg and put baby on your back. So they give you some, then you go hire a driver. But anyway, that's besides the point. Go ahead.
That besides the point. But the most critical point the thing I wanted to point out here is, for me, I'm looking carefully at how Cummings will handle this situation. That's what I'm looking at. The post-protest accountability is what I'm looking at. Mistakes can happen. It also speaks to how, Cummings, from where he come from, everybody know him, risk management is very critical from where Cummings came from. How come he could not, detect and mitigate the risks of putting 70,000 in somebody's hand? It's a question that lingers on my mind. Cummings that we know, it's not sensitive to risks to that extent, but that has happened. What we're looking forward to now, how can Cummings hold those who were associated with that accountable? It will speak to how he will hold people accountable when he becomes president. How this happened after the protests, how he investigates, how he hold people accountable and take action, will send a message of how he will hold people accountable when he becomes president. Because both of our problem in that country is about accountability. When the mayor is your friend, he's associated with you, he does something. After 2 days, the noise, after 2 weeks, we can see in Liberia, after 2 weeks, everything subsides, the story ends, no accountability. I saw Jonathan here screaming about, what the police report, what the passport investigation report, which are very good. We all are calling for those things. We're holding Weah accountable to ensure that these investigations are conducted, there are outcomes, there are people who should bear, responsibility, and action should be taken. Because Weah is the president. How Cummings will handle this 70,000 situation to make people to account will tell us the type of person he will be when he becomes president. Some of us are watching. We're not talking about the boy that run away with the money. That one that they honor the breach. We don't get time for that one now. The money gone. But this man who wants to be president, to come and address a fundamental problem in our country around accountability, how is he addressing the accountability of the 70,000 after the protests? I will be looking forward to seeing what Kumi will do. Once upon a time, I felt disappointed, or maybe I did not follow to the end. When COVID-19 came, Kumi pledged an amount of money that he will spend on COVID as part of his foundation, but he went one step further and said, after the process, we will publish the report of all those that contributed and how we spend the money. To date, I have not seen a stand to be corrected. I have not seen Cummings release the report of who contributed to the COVID-19 intervention, which was very imperative, which was very supportive. I saw it across the country. He has never published that report of who contributed. He has never published the report of how he spent the money. I've not seen it stand to be corrected. So this one is the second account. We will be looking forward to seeing how Kumi will handle the post-protest accountability of the 70,000. It will tell who the kind of president he will be.
Thank you.
We will get now investigation after 2 weeks, close it up. We will know from this particular one.
Thank you. And I'll bring in color before Jonathan, you come in. And it's very important. I was the Unity Party guy to say, well, I mean, what are you doing? We can see the financials of these political parties. So even when you say we get 70,000, we get 400,000, we can't even tell, right? Because we have never seen the financials. We have never seen any internal audit. I'm not even talking external. So just like Weah is not talking, Weah is not transparent, it's not giving report, we are seeing the same thing. But Jonathan, please hold your peace. My guys have been waiting on here. Let me take Darling Warwood and then Sarah Sinner, and then we'll go back to you, Jonathan. Darling, go ahead. You are live on Focus on Liberia.
Yeah, thank you, Danny. Thank you very much for having me. Good evening to you guys there in studio. Well, Dennis, I wish Mr. Brown was in studio so I would ask him, but I will still ask my question. Louis Brown worked for Taylor Regime. He worked as managing director for LBRC. In less than no time, he rented a huge mansion on Airport Road. Taylor was driving by one day, as I heard. He saw the building. He was like, who got this building? He said, a managing director. That's how he dragged Louis Brown out of LBRC. He was unemployed for a long time until he later, at the end of Taylor's regime, they sent him to Foreign Affairs. He was there briefly as Foreign Affairs Minister. Again, Ellen came to power. He said he didn't have a job. He was unemployed, hungry, passing around. He started making noise. He claimed that Ellen regime was the most corrupt regime in Liberian history. Ellen brought him closer, made information minister. He kept quiet. His very government, George Weah government, he was serving as a U.S. Liberian ambassador to the United Nations. All of this time, Louis Brown never organized a single rally. He never saw that Liberian people were suffering. He didn't see their suffering. During Taylor regime, ATU, whoever all their names, they were beating people in the street, literally beating people in the street, killing people. He never complained. I remember that the day that the Sawyer community Weezer and others were flogged at a Nancy office. I remember that very well. Louis Brown never complained because he was working, he was eating, he was fat. Ellen government, he was eating, he was fat. Now that he had, because I think he got fired in 2019. Since then, he has been unemployed. It is now that Louis has recognized that Liberian people are suffering. The whole while he was working, he didn't see any suffering in the faces of Liberians. I see this to be very dishonest. And one of the reasons why you got people like Louis Brown talking is the failure on Weah's part to establish a war crime code. Because if we had this war crime code established, you would not have criminals like Louis Brown parading the street of Morales talking about rally.
Darling, why are you calling him criminal? He's not being convicted.
He's not being convicted. I have the right to call him criminal. Because I know what he did when he was with the Marine. He was at the head of Charter of Rebel. When Charter of Rebel was raging in Liberia, Louis Brown was a Marine commander. He and Melvin Subani.
Yes, so an allegation. But thank you for your contribution. Let me.
Yeah, and also the money that got missing there, the Liberian National Police should get involved with that money because that's a donation from Liberian citizens. That's not ordinary money. People donated that money. So LMP need to get involved with that money and investigate Louis Brown and Martin Colley for that money. You can't trust Louis Brown. Thank you very much for having me tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me get Sarah Senior and then Jonathan, you come in. Sarah, quickly.
Yeah, thank you. And thank to the panelists for the deliberation. For me, it's struggling, quote unquote, Cummings, who has this constant quotation in his speech everywhere he went. If Moba or Morris is saying that is a fundamental problem in our country in terms of system, now what role do you play as the one who is coming to change the situation around? Look, in Liberia, we have mobile money. Mobile money is almost every place. So take, for example, if the guy was going to look for buses, one of his criteria was, I'm going to look for someone or a boss that has an account, either a mobile money account, because you don't want to be traveling with such huge, amount of money. You put your own character at stake with this kind of money. And so the issue about a lack of system in our country continue to permeate even in our institutions. So if you are coming to be that one that we should look up to as the one who coming to face the system, then that system should start with your political institution.
Thank you.
So it baffles me when Martin Colley, the Louis Brown, holding such huge amount of money with them, and if for any reason, if you took someone from the community and say, why would you want to leave that person with $70,000, in a bag, since you're not paying the person? And even look at the kind of money you're paying the person. If, for example, if there was something to go back. So we have to be serious, and that's why I got problem with a lot of people who say, we gotta speak truth. Truth, I don't know how to define the word truth in their own something, but I think they define it on the basis of which side they find themselves. So that issue that went on is something that really needs to be investigated. Now, coming to the issue of the rally, how is it you calling a rally code name Tire Suffering, and you printing T-shirt and you putting a political institution name on it, but yet still you want for other opposition to join you, and you're still putting a Cummings, quote unquote, on the T-shirt, but yet you're still looking for people to join you, your other political party to join you. So that's where it is. So I think the entire rally is intended, to show strength, because politicians love to show strength, and that rally is one of those means through which they want to show their strength as to whether Comey has the numbers or the rest of it.
Thank you, Sarah.
Or the rest of it, and so we need to be sincere when we're discussing issues, that pertain to our country. We want our country to progress, and if we want that country to progress, then we will appear on these talk shows to speak truth to authority.
Thank you. Jonathan, I want you to respond before I bring in the other callers. I mean, this is supposed to be a spontaneous rally, right? People coming and say, we tire suffering. Now you're printing T-shirt, and you are doing it on the eve. Tomorrow is a rally. You buying the T-shirt today. You getting the ambulances today. You getting these buses today. Come on now. I think those things should be planned, especially for someone from a corporate background. Go ahead. Jonathan.
And so, few things very quickly. As to whether the uptake of a stealing or related stealing of a 70,000 was something good on the rally, on the image of the rally, that we can talk about it. As to the procedure laid down, financial procedure, as to how to handle money so that there can be a trace, is something that we all can take on an advancement. But let me register very quickly that no one is trained or has that responsibility or is an expert in rally, and we should be seeking that person face to be on a rally about things that are happening in our country. As we all go along these trying times, whether 50 years from now, there will always be rally. There will always be gathering. Who has that gathering? It will depend on the arguments that will be about. I believe that Jesus Christ was not pushing because he wanted to be redeemed himself. Jesus Christ himself was redeemed like other prophets. He was giving message to other people. So for someone to say somebody got to be a Puritan before they can stage a rally or call for a rally, I think that means that we got to look for one Puritan.
You said Jesus was redeemed? You said Jesus was redeemed?
That Jesus was not preaching. Jesus was not preaching to redeem himself. Jesus was preaching to people that he wanted to redeem.
Okay.
So except we are looking for a Puritan to lead a rally, then we will have no rally. But what are the issues that surround the rally that we want to talk about here today? My brother
Jonathan, let me hold you to that point. Jonathan, let me hold you to that point, because you got out of CPP because Mr. Comey didn't want to be with people that were tinted. That was the message that other wings in the ANC were carrying. Mr. Comey, what are you doing with these people? You are Mr. Clean. How come now we're talking about, oh, we don't need Puritans to lead rally? You can win with both good people and bad people. Where all this coming from?
Hello?
Hi.
He said we got out of CPP.
Oh, you still there?
Did you say we? Did you say
I mean CPP 1.0.
CPP number 1.
CPP 1.0.
Oh, you have a CPP 2.0, bro.
And let her get a little serious. I'm an institutional person.
Mm-hmm.
The CPP is by the electoral country. The Liberty Party is audited and constrained to follow procedure through the National Elections Commission that it recognized also. So they are into a full-fledged business. We can do the political spinning as to how many people Madam Dombly Kanga or with Dillon, but the facts on the book recognized by the National Elections Commission state that Liberty Party is in collaboration with the CPP. I don't want us to veer from the core issue.
I give that to you. Go ahead.
On the serious burning issue, and I take Ambula Mohammed's conversation from the perspective, we should hold Mr. Cummings and the CPP accountable for those who contributed that money that is believed to be within the neighborhood of 70,000. I take that on an advancement, and I take it in good stride. As to whether we are not to lead the protest or the protest will lead us to boot war, the rally will lead us to boot war, sorry for the misspeaking. Rally that we have conducted in the past have led us to no boot war. The facts on the ground here is that some of our colleagues from different political persuasion are of the belief that if the rally is successful, it will give us an ambit that indeed the CPP is stronger. We are saying that is not a prerequisite to voting the CPP. It is how we identify common front as opposition, like we will do with biometric, like we will do with the passport, like we will do with the sanctioned officials that are not being investigated. It is just one of the issues that have come up. And United Party could invite us to a rally on common front and the ANC and CPP would attend such rally. But to impute on our character that indeed, because some are coming, Dennis, that someone stole 70,000 means that we didn't put in place financial management. Let me say for the record, a Nissan Patrol Jeep was stolen for me after the 2017 election. The young guy who the transport department assigned to me, and I'm borrowing for Amula Mohammed, because I would have gone in my community and I'm taking one of the boys living in the community to drive me and carry me to work. Because there were too many workload, so the phone driver for me, so that my brain can be able to work effectively. And one person will be doing the driving. That young man, after the election, stole the vehicle and ran away with it. When I put him on blast through the LMP, National Police, the young guy came on Facebook and said that I myself was in a cahoot of stealing the car that was assigned to me. Now, if you have such a situation that people want to draw a correlation of a syndicate, the best way to investigate such syndicate is for the person who is claiming otherwise to bring themselves to check. Now, the driver of the car that is 70,000 got missing, Martin Kula is available. If the driver doesn't want to make himself available to CPP, the issue of investigation that the driver should take itself to the LMP so that we investigate the issue and establish the facts. But because we are not into that to organize the director, we will now want to spin it to say, like Newton would say, I'm surprised at Newton. He listed Louis Brown. He never said what Louis Brown did at LPRC. He accused Louis Brown. He have not stated on facts of anything whatsoever. And that is wrong. Yep. It is part of the corruption, and we should weed it out no matter how close we are with the friends.
Thank you, Jonathan.
To state on the record that indeed Mr. Louis Brown did X, Y, Z, and it's established by record.
Thank you,
so
Jonathan.
I can speak politics. He working. Lastly, one second.
Jonathan, just hold on. Let me bring in my last two
callers. So what is the barometer to measure corruption? The barometer to measure any corruption are independent audit. So until the old man can tell that he was auditor and provider, it is not a barometer to measure corruption.
Thank you, Jonathan. Jonathan, thank you. Let me bring in my last three callers because they've been waiting for a long time now, and they are charging them for calling on this line. Let me get Elvis Morris. Let's use 1 minute each, and then we can end this broadcast. Elvis, go ahead. Thank you for calling.
Thank you, Mr. John. I just want to appreciate you. You know, tonight we saw the vintage Dennis John. Some of us respect and fell in love with him because of that. We fell in love with your platform. You know, for holding Jonathan's feet to the fire. You know, for some of us, we know who Louis Brown is. Many of us will know who he is. The question is, does commies know who Louis Brown is? That's the question. I think one of the callers put it succinctly. The guy was jobless for some time. The moment he jumped in games coming, he wanted out like old rebel, challenging the government, you know, acting as though he was some kind of beacon for freedom of speech. As to Taiwan Gonglo, he was the conduit who became chancellor in Gonglo when Gonglo was being flogged in prison, being mistreated. Throwing PP on him. Louis Brown was calling the mayor all hours of the night, telling the president wants to see you. Matter of fact, anytime the president wants to see you, he can see you. Ask Taiwan Gonglo. He gave testimony. He can attest to it. So when Dola can sit down here, people like Louis Brown, who along with Chancellor were beating their own countrymen, we were not talking about it. But he backing Louis Brown now because he on teams coming. But then let me get to my last point before I get off the line quickly. I want to talk to Mr. Yenton. The last time he came on this platform, Mr. Tule, they were crying, oh, people got to be respectful. When you call the platform, they got to be respectful. I took that into consideration because I respect Mr. John and his platform. I said, maybe I can be too harsh. Let me change my criticism. But tonight you heard him, you know, saying all type of things about the president and his supporter. Talking outside of their mouth. They can be strong when they're abusing opposition leader. But when he touch JMB, they're ready to jitter. I just want to warn him because when he do that again, the next time I will give him a full barrage, you know. So thank you so much for the show tonight. Thank you.
That man ain't got no barrage. Don't worry about him.
That man ain't get pistol.
All right, let me go to Thomas Cannon. Thomas, Ambrose is Thomas before Ambrose. Go ahead, Thomas.
Thank you, Dennis, and thanks to all the guests on the platform. So let me just go through quickly. The first thing is that on the issue of the conference, I think one of the things that people have repeatedly said in Liberia was the fact that President Weah did not get an invitation from the U.S. government for a state visit. So I think that is still something that has not happened. And that is something, if it does not happen, it will be on him as the president of Liberia, which is a traditional ally of the U.S. I think the reason why Liberia got invited is because of this issue of where we say that family tree can bend, but it can't break. Like, your panelists are saying, the American ambassador in Liberia is trying as much as possible to really be able to push. But there was no way you were going to leave Liberia out if you were inviting African presidents. That would have raised a lot of eyebrows. So all of these selfies don't really call it if we can get a state visit to the U.S. On the issue of the town hall, I think this is something that should not surprise us. The president, even before he became president, he was always shielded from the public. He didn't appear for any debate, and we do not expect that he is going to be allowed to interact with people outside his immediate cycle. On the issue of the LBDI is very sad. They show high level of corruption in the country. And I just feel sad for the common people in Liberia. Even all of you that are talking all these things, talking about Liberia, if you go to Liberia and you want to do something, they will ask you, where's the tangible? What have you done? You've not done anything. You were talking for nothing. And when you elect people who bring tangibles, if they don't get money from the national budget, they will go to LBDI. They will take your deposit money, and your father will not get the pension that they have worked for. So these people will just continue to corrupt the system and keep the very people poor. On the issue of the rally, anyone who goes there, it's up to them. They have their right to be able to do it. I think people should just be able to allow people to do what they wish to do as in a democratic society. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, more people calling. Ambrose, go ahead. You're live.
Hey, Dennis, how you doing? And how to your panelists? I just got a couple of things I want to talk about. First, Martin Kula have a history. I just heard on another channel, Martin Kula used to have a drugstore and they had a susu club. They say at some point when they were about to distribute their money, Martin Kula King said the money got lost for the susu club. In District 6 or whatever he did. They say he used to have a pharmacy over there. When the susu club had their money, at the year they were supposed to distribute the money, all of a sudden, Martin Kimo was sorry to say, oh, the money got disappeared. And I think Bruce Brown and Martin, they are scapegoating the driver. And first of all, the amount, I don't think the amount is 70,000. Because if you read what Martin reported to some place, he said he was paying people, but because the noise was loud, a lot of people were out there, he had to go settle people and come back. So if the amount, how much he had already paid and who he paid. And secondly, how Mr. Cummings can allow his organization or organization he follows not have accountability, people paying people with cash. I think we'll be above that level where we'll issue invoice or people will pay, and after our program we pay them. Have a transparent where we can get footnote or we can place document or to other people. How can if even this was true, Martin said he gave Dennis 500. How we can verify that he really did give Dennis? I just using your name. Sorry for me using your name.
That's fine.
$10. Yeah. How we can verify that when we handling cash? I thought we try to change the system. I used to support Mr. Cummings, but some Louis Bradley on show, I get almost 1,500 to Mr. Cummings by his rally they have here. But it's disappointing to see, and the organization that you try to, we have put our neck on the top, people try to convince people we are supposed to be there, turning to some kind of unprofessional organization.
Yeah.
And Martin having a history, he did to direct down. You got sacked from a job or you resigned from a job, but you are still receiving the paycheck. And according to the gentleman, you will receive your social money. You don't have to take my story, you can verify it. If you ever in a social club before.
Thank you
for taking my call.
Thank you. Let me get the last caller here now, and that's Leo Johnson. Mr. President, you're live.
Yes, sir, Mr. John. Thank you so much for taking my call. I know you're wrapping up. I just wanted to give my thoughts on a few things here. Number one, I don't even think anybody should be discussing President Weah at this time. I think it's pretty clear. President Weah and his people think they're doing favor when it comes to diaspora and organize an engagement with the Liberian community across the board. Number two, citizens in the U.S., I think, should be embarrassed. If anything, this is a minus for President Weah. If anything, in my opinion, and the contrast between the speech that he gave, asking about diaspora engagement, and then seconds later, he's unable to engage with the very diaspora. Let's come to the issue of the rally. ANC people people should be very embarrassed of themselves. And my brother, Jonathan Dolaki, I'm surprised that you guys are even having this conversation about this missing money. There is absolutely no value here. This is an embarrassing situation. And I don't think anybody from the ANC should be answering questions. If I were you or from the ANC, when it comes to crisis management, I would rather avoid answering a question and say there's an investigation going on and I don't know much than to be justifying about why somebody has 70,000 cash and why somebody did not have cash. This is an embarrassment by any stature. And I'm shocked that the CPP people were willing to even be entertaining and trying to provide an explanation for this discussion at the press conference. Basically, if anything, it shows the growth incompetence. I care less whether it was in cash or in check. If $70,000 gets stolen from a stalwart who was put in their responsibility, that means they were grossly incompetent. The way it was handled, there was no risk mitigation measures taking in place. So there's no need to be running around in circles. The last thing I will say to everybody on here, people should be very, very careful with how we talk about people. All of the people who are calling and saying Louis Brandon a rebel, this person a rebel, who stopped anybody from taking Louis Brandon to court? Foreign nations are doing us a favor by suing these people in foreign courts and they are being found guilty. All the big mouth lawyers regarding Liberia that pass around. I heard Councillor Tiamon Gongo tape talking about because Louis Brandon leading the protest, you're not going there. Who stopped you, Councillor Gongo, esteemed councillor? We know your record for going to court, for taking Louis Brandon to even a Liberian court. Who stopped anybody from suing Louis Brandon? Like the war crimes are crimes also under local laws. Murder, conscription of child soldiers, all of these things are crimes everywhere. Some of the crimes of torture that are accusing people like Louis Brandon of, why are you taking them to court? So we don't want to be passing around judging people guilty or not guilty, but the moment they try to do something, then you'll say we might exact the punishment of criminal convicts on them when they've never been convicted before. If that is the case, take them to court, let them be found guilty, and then they are convicted criminals. Then you can hold people accountable. When Louis Brandon were running campaign for CDC, nobody realized that they were convicted criminals. When he was representing Liberia at the United Nations, nobody found him any problems. When he was minister, nobody found him any problem. But now he decided to run a campaign for somebody. Everybody might be running around the place. Look, if you see the protest speaks to your mind and you want to participate, participate. If you see it's not your thing, it doesn't speak to you, don't participate. But let's start casting expressions on people's characters when we don't have the guts to stand up and face them in a court of law when so many other countries, the recent U.S. war crime ambassador, where she said it. Other countries are willing to help too. Why are we not filing lawsuits at ECOWAS court against these people? Why are we not filing lawsuits at local Liberian courts? Why are we not filing lawsuits at international courts that are already prosecuting them on our behalf? But we sit and just make noise, so we got to decide what we really want to do.
Thank you, Leo. All right, starting with Jonathan, let's get your, I think our time is fast spent. Let's get your closing. And Jonathan, you may have one more shot, but let's see what happens. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, and so on this note, I would like to say thanks for the opportunity. I would like to say the 14 years of decadence that we all witnessed. While it is true that Ambassador Louis Brandon is accused of many of the things or some of the things because of a political engagement, but he was one of the chief negotiators that negotiated in order for us to have the Accra Peace Accord and to make sure that out of it will reap the dividend of having a TRC process. He supports the War and Economic Crimes Code. He wants to face his accuser like many others, and he has only seen exemplary role in Ellis Cummings. That is why he has volunteered to support Mr. Cummings. He has the right. Mr. Nyonto and others who are condemning him today, I hope they condemn him. He was supporting Unity Party, and he was campaigning for Unity Party, and he represented Liberia at the United Nations. I hope this criticism would have come up. On the rally front, I'd like to say that we want to hold every actors that had the issue of the money missing. My information is that 70,000 did not get missing, but probably it was the sum of money that was being disbursed. Again, receipt obtained from vendors, source documents. And so when you have an operational thing of this nature, sometimes you have to deal with liquid cash based on our situation in the country. We take it under advisement the next time to do it ahead of time. That will give us opportunity to use other electronics means, but it does not give anybody the right to be celebrated or thief to be celebrated. We should condemn all forms of thievery, whether in court, whether in Zogo form, and in any manner and form. I'd like to say the U.S.-Africa Summit relationship, or the bilateral, the summit meant to engage. It was quite resourceful, except that the president, his mismatching his words against his action. The town hall did not see Liberians to come there and express themselves. It was a CDC gathering. The LBDI fracas is quite appalling. We should dig deeper into it. And it doesn't speak well of our governance structure. And so I'd like to say, finally, thank you for the platform. Liberians who believe in the rally will assemble tomorrow in their multiplicity in order to condemn what is going on currently in our governance structure. And it is on the shoulder of the government to take heed from it and act appropriately in keeping with the rule of law. By persecuting those who have been sanctioned, who have defaced our image as a country, and also taking on appropriate action, like in the instance of LBDI and other areas, in order to redeem the image of our country and demonstrate accountability on its part.
Thank you. Mami?
Good discussion. We keep our fingers crossed. We look at what Cummings and the ANC will do to hold people accountable. We use that as a marker of his potential commitment to accountability when he becomes president. Liberians have seen for the last 6 years, or almost 6 years, that everything we need as a country to move forward are all the things that President Weah is lacking. It is the choice is with Liberians to decide whether they want to continue making Weah happy, Weah comfortable, or they want to make a decision to improve their lives. President travels all over the country for the 8 days, lied on the Paris Forum that it was extended. Paris Forum officially wrote to Senator Dillon's office that their forum was never extended. It was only for 2 days and not for 8 days. He did that only because he wanted to have more time outside the country. Comes to the US under the disguise of coming to have business meetings. So he wanted to come earlier than the day that the African Forum was scheduled. He came here over a week. We heard nothing about business forums. When presidents are meeting people, it is just appropriate that those meetings are information around those meetings are released. Presidents don't meet in secret. We heard nothing about it. He goes to the summit, nothing significant. At the summit, officials of his government, senior officials of his government, are celebrating his picture with Biden. Senior officials of the government are celebrating introductory remarks by the U.S. Secretary of State. But this U.S. Secretary of State, after making flowery introductory remarks as part of a diplomatic etiquette, sits on the board of the MCC, denies Liberia millions of dollars that the country needs. Liberians see that. They know that President Weah goes back home in a week time, we call on Liberians to challenge him to do more or to leave. But because there is limited time to do anything significant between now and the election, we only call on our people to see reason that this is the opportunity for themselves. It is no longer about Weah. Everything George Weah wanted in his life, God gave it to him. He played soccer, God made him win the world best. He earned money. He came to politics, God made him president. You can be nothing more than the president. Nothing more than the president. He became president. He has failed them, and it is an opportunity to tell him to go. If you reject Weah, one good thing Liberians will do for themselves if they reject Weah is they will be sending a message to their next president that we are not stupid and you are not guaranteed a second term until you can perform for your first term. But if they elect Weah, they will be sending the contrary message to the next president that you can do anything to us. Once election time, you can put up some money and some t-shirt, we'll re-elect you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Maba.
I'd like to thank you for the show. It was very interesting tonight. On the president's visit to the leadership summit, I like the things that he said about women empowerment and his efforts to eliminate women, the harmful traditional practices that hurt women in the community. But I just want him to practicalize what he says by meeting with traditional leaders if he really wants to make a change. Secondly, I like to talk about a town hall meeting. I felt like the meeting was basically supporters of the president, and he only spoke to two different groups, the opposition and the supporters, but he failed to address the independents that will make him to win the elections. So next time, if he's talking to people, he should make sure that he speak to independents as well, so that they will make a difference for him. I also want to talk about the bank. People should learn to be honest, whether it's on your credentials, academic credentials, or your experience. You don't have to just exaggerate because you want position. And when people know that somebody is not qualified, don't try to give them position because they are your family or friend or because they are connected to any big person. I don't think it's the right thing to do for the country. I lastly want to talk about the rally. I personally feel like this is not the right time for the rally, and people have to show example. What you believe in, you should believe in it always, not because it's not in your favor today, then you support it or you don't support it. So Liberian people should be given a chance if they want to rally. That's their prerogative to rally. It's their right, but people should not be using the Liberian people to do things for the personal benefits. And if you want to make a change, you have to show example. We can't be talking about rallying against the president. Then those who try to make a change, you got 70,000 that are disappearing, and nobody knows where the money gone to. So I hope there will be investigation so that there will be accountability at the end of the day. Dennis, thank you very much for the beautiful show. And thank you for all the panelists for being here tonight.
Thank you so much. Let me go to Mr. Yonton.
Well, I think it's been a wonderful, wonderful interaction. Every time I have my brother Maurice and Mambe and the rest of the folks, Jonathan, I think it's always a good interaction. There's just a couple of things I want to inject in my closing. The first is that our laws, and that is in reference to what my learned brother Leo Johnson was trying to allude to. our laws does not provide for the prosecution of war crimes, crimes against humanity, or genocide or massacre or suicide. And with the civil conflict that we had in the 14 years period, there was absolutely suspension of the Constitution. That is clear. Now, on the flip side of that is that Liberia is a member, is a part of the Rome Statute, and the history of prosecution of war crimes guarantees through the ICC, right, and the UN-backed process, like what we had in Sierra Leone and Rwanda. I think we have to move the nation towards justice in a way that we established the World Economic Council, and that's one of the things that we have been advocating for a long time. Sadly, the Weah government has failed in meeting its obligation as promised to the Liberian people before they assume the state. So we are hoping that if that happens, we can move in the direction of finding cleansing. But there's a caveat to that. Well, if you watch, all of those were the major players in our conflict. Um, by 2023, which have been 20 years since the end of gunfire, most of those people who are the major players are all in the late 70s and 80s. 5 years from now, we wouldn't be having a conversation around war crimes because most of them will be gone. Who are we going to prosecute? People who were child soldiers? They were not major architect of the civil conflict. So I think it's time that we do it now, and there should be no reason why we're not having that conversation at a massive scale. The second point I would like to make is that my brother challenged him, and it's kind of funny how my brother challenged me on the record of Louis Brown. We'll not go into that. What I want to state is that there's no in between in terms of standing for justice. There's no in between in terms of standing for change. Um, the record that Mr. Cummins is running on is a record of change. It's a record that promotes this idea of trying to do something different in order to create a different atmosphere and create a different result. There's no in between. There's no two ways about that. You can verify people on the other side for being, looters of the state, but then you appreciate and absorb someone who has proven FIFA record of being a criminal. You can, verify someone on the other side of being participant of the Civil War, but on the other side, you embrace someone who, was a major, major player, held arms, participated in some of the deathless and bloody genocide in our country. That's contradiction, and I think Comey should be called out on that. The last point is that as we move towards the election, part of why we availed ourselves to this platform is to continuously inform our people that we still have chance to correct the mistake of 2017. We can do that by the votes that we were cashed in 2023. The Weah administration is cleared, has failed the Liberian people, and want the greed of sensitivity, respect for the Liberian people have not been showed over the last 5 years. It is time to move our country forward, and we have to move it in the direction of Joseph Yumambuaga. So let's rally around this man and move our country in a fundamental new direction. I see Abdullah Mame trying to shake himself, but that's my point.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. P. Morris Kruman, Perfect Manager, you get the last word.
Dennis, thanks for the opportunity again. Today was a really exciting discussion. Like Yonton said, every time we have the opportunity to come and exchange with some of these brothers, it's always exciting. There's one thing that Leo said that I want to pick on also is the fact that we should be careful about this whole idea of accusation because and I do agree with him. I've been a victim of it, so I know how in the labyrinth circle people are quick to run all sort of accusations. I remember 2017 I was a very vocal person on Madam Joa Howard Taylor, and so somewhere along the campaign people started accusing me of being a Yulumo fighter, did my pictures and all kind of things. It was funny to me because anybody that knows me know that I'm the scariest man that you can think about when it comes to gun. But
little different with Louis Brown though, because he was actually
I'm
MPF.
360 degrees from whoever participated in the war. When the war came out of Liberia, I was not even there in the first place. But the idea is that there is this culture in Liberia where when people don't like the things you say, they think about ways that it can bring you down or destroy you. I've seen that. So I'm really, really, really careful when I hear people say, "Oh, this person is not like this. This person is like that." I'm very careful about it because, like I said, I've seen it, and I've seen people in Ellen Johnson Sirleaf government that people accused of being gay. Some of our colleagues that we were very close to, they said they were gay, and I know that that's not the truth. But once you don't socialize with some of these people, they make these things up, and once they get into the public, you're gonna spend the rest of your time not trying to explain to them, no, this is not true. Same thing with the Cummings accusation. Those are things that we need to discourage in the Liberian society. So I'm glad that Leo brought it up, and hopefully, the conversation about the war. Maybe we should talk about it some days. Dennis, let's find a time to talk about how we perceive those who participate in the war, what role they play, and how should that prosecution happen. Because even with the whole TRC process, there are questions that need to be answered. But we can, 20 years on, I do agree that some of the people are dying, but still, there has to be some sort of accountability for it. Otherwise, we'll just allow the society to be as bad as it is because people are still living with the anger. Some people did not understand what structure or, organization is or society is. They're growing up by themselves, and so they don't understand what some of those things look like. But thank you for the opportunity again.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you for availing yourself tonight for our Friday night debate. I want to thank our viewers for always being here. I grew up in the church in my little town of Dodwakan, and this song was very prominent. So I'm glad that the minister was able to sing it.
So yesterday when you hear me singing, oh, I'm talking,
On that note, we're going to end with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." By the way, that song says we are going to war. In other words, the Christian warfare. Okay? So a better way of singing the song, they will also mention that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty in the pulling down of strongholds. Don't let me preach. But Mr. Tua was singing it, say, "Man, we are going to war," and the MCC scorecard and all that,
but Dennis, I beg you, just 1 minute, man. Just 1 minute, Dennis. You see the thing about Weah. These guys, 12 work with the MCC when he was with the Ministry of Finance. He knows by just passing the MCC scorecard is not sufficient to get MCC funding. There are supplemental information used by the board to make those decisions. He knows that. But he presents it to Weah as if everything is okay, so we are going to sleep.
And that's what the song is about. So let's end with the song that says, "Now I'm talking." We are all Liberians. Whether you believe that tomorrow you're going to be part of the Retire Suffering rally or not, we are all Liberians. So let's do everything possible to make our country the glorious land of liberty. Have a good night, y'all. We are all Liberians.
we are Liberians.